Up next, I have Roz Edison. Roz, you are the CEO of Marination, and could you just tell us for a couple minutes what Marination is and how you guys got into doing big data?
Absolutely, thank you. So Marination is a family of restaurants in Seattle. We started with a food truck in 2009, and we've grown to add 3 more brick and mortar restaurants.
Very
A
cool.
little walk-up called Marination Station, and a waterfront place called Marination Mackay. And then we just opened a restaurant called Super 6.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
A
full
lot of
restaurant,
growth.
full service, everything. So
A lot of growth, probably a
Yeah.
lot of data flowing
yeah,
through
a
your
lot of growth and a
systems,
lot of data.
but not something that a lot of, Dave was just talking about his friend with the coffee store and how, unapproachable that data is for somebody who's used to managing staff and getting new, facilities and looking for suppliers and all that other stuff. How did you guys get into this journey?
Well, we started the journey through an invitation, to be honest, from Tableau to beta test this new product.
Excellent.
I've always looked at data, but like many small business owners, it's come from lots of different places, a lot of pieces of paper,
Yeah.
transformed into Excel spreadsheets, and then trying to pull something together. And now, using Vizable, we have the opportunity to take, again, that same spreadsheet, but then pull it in and use it on our app. And it's a lot easier to see and a lot easier to understand. And that's really how it started, with an invitation to test something, and it grew and grew and grew, and we're really enjoying it now.
Fantastic. How long have you guys been using the product?
We were first invited in August, just this last summer.
Okay.
And it was a busy time, and so there's lots of data, a lot of tacos being sold, and so it's pretty great.
Excellent. And what are some of the insights that you got about your customers or about your business that maybe surprised you and you didn't think you would have been able to get anywhere else as easily?
Oh, great question. Right now, most of our data looks at what we do internally in terms of inventory and our sales. And the most interesting part for me this summer was looking at the cost of goods that we spend, just what we spend on our raw products. And I was scrolling through a Viz that had all of the prices that we've paid historically over 6 years for product.
Yeah.
And looking at the range of prices and comparing against locations, and found out, one, that we buy a whole lot of spam for spam sliders, and also learned that we seem to be paying a lot for cheese.
Okay.
Which is interesting because although tacos are one of our main items, we don't have any cheese on our tacos. And yet there was this line that was fairly long that said cheese. And so it led to an interesting conversation with our vendor and my managers, and I realized and I was reminded that we also have quesadillas and other things. So it was a great thing, and it's also allowed me to negotiate down my price a little bit and all that stuff. So that was a big ingredient, to be honest, that I had overlooked all these years, not really paid much attention to it.
Absolutely, yeah. The data's all hidden down there in the
It was, and
spreadsheets.
it popped. Vizable made it just pop out. It was clearly an extra long line that I wasn't expecting to see. And again, for someone who's not a sophisticated data user, I could immediately see that and say, yes, that's something I need to ask more questions about, which is really, Vizable is that. It gives you something to look at quickly, and then you can ask lots of questions.
Excellent. What did you guys, out of curiosity, did you use anything before Vizable, or?
Oh, yeah, we use the standard Excel charting tools. Yeah, but that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you get any training on the product, or they pretty much just handed it to you and you figured it out yourself? What were, for folks that are going to be looking at the product, what
Yeah.
were some of the big surprises or gotchas, or what?
Yep.
What?
Well, the team has done an incredible job of leveraging all of the usual things that you would do on an iPad.
Yep.
So they know you're going to pinch, they know you're going to swipe, they know you're going to, tap and hold and drag and do that
Yep.
kind of stuff. So all of that is built in, and it's pretty fluid that way. The other thing is you can't really break Vizable. You can't, you're going to bring your data set in, but then once it's in, it's like a playground. You can move it, you can delete it, the whole thing, and be like, okay, don't like that, and you're not going to do any harm. Your core data is still going to be there.
Right.
The worst thing is that maybe right now, if you accidentally find the perfect filtered view of what you want and you don't save it, then that's on you. You
got to recreate all that work.
Yeah,
again.
but it's not a lot of work. We're talking less than a minute of swiping and pinching, and then boom, you're right back to where you started. So the app is really well designed that way. I didn't get a lot of training because they wanted to test whether or not it was well designed.
Sure.
And so they gave it to me. And I'm a mid-level iPad user. I use it for home use and stuff, not for business.
Yep.
So again, using an app for business is an incredible opportunity as well. I'd never really thought about using my iPad and an app for business that much.
Gotcha, and this was your first foray into Tableau. You'd never used desktop or server before?
Today's keynote speech, to be honest, was the first time I'd ever seen Tableau desktop.
Okay, cool. So this was the get-go.
Yeah, but I love this stuff, and I love seeing end product vizzes, and my my friends know this about me, and that's one of the reasons when they were deciding whether or not I'd be a good fit. I already have the enthusiasm for it. I just didn't have any of the formal training, so I was sort of halfway there and just sophisticated enough to like have the enthusiasm to try. So
absolutely.
I think anyone could use it though. To be honest, it's very easy to use the app itself.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
And how important, I would imagine with the food truck, right? It's going around to different locations. How important or how often do you do visualizations on the go, or do you need to check in on that?
No, you wouldn't bring your iPad on your food truck.
Okay, too messy.
It would melt. It wouldn't be good. However, I do use it, between with meetings with our managers and after service. We don't, to be honest, in the restaurant industry, you don't sit down and have a ton of time to manipulate data. But when you get to those critical moments where you're evaluating your monthly sales data or your weekly sales data, or you're reviewing, you have a new vendor, or you just get a very large invoice one day and you say, let me just take a look at it. That's when you sit down, pull up some data, look at it in the app.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very cool. What were some of the cool visualizations you did? What were some of the different widgets you played around with? Bar graphs?
In the app, it's a little bit more limited right now.
Sure.
I know it's version 1. And my favorite visualization is the histogram, which shows the range and then the average. And that's really given me some, for a large data set, so being able to look for like this cheese topic, right? So to look at we get deliveries of cheese 4 times a week at 2 different locations. So 6 different deliveries of cheese for 6 years.
That's a lot.
It's been a lot of cheese. And in seconds, I could see a line, a chart that would show me exactly the average price and roughly whether the average is built right around it or whether it's really these anomalies and so forth. So very, very useful that way.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And what kind of change, have you made any changes? You talked about, the cheese and the suppliers, that kind of thing. Did you make any kind of strategic changes around the business, or do you
Not a strategic change, to be honest, but better conversations with my managers, for sure. We know now that if there's a large set of data that we want to start looking at, they now know that there's a tool that we have in our company that we can pull in and start to really manipulate. There's kind of no excuse like, oh, I couldn't figure out if there was an anomaly because now we have a reason to go look at it. And if we can get the data set clean enough, we should be able to find those things, And so we are excited about the future, and it's really new. And so mostly within our company, we're excited about the future conversations that we're going to have using this as that starting ground for those questions that we're going to ask about why things are high, why things are low, that kind of stuff.
Cool. How many folks internally are using the product at the moment?
Right now, just 3 of us.
Okay.
Yep.
And who would you say is the least savvy user? Do you have any stories of them and how they picked it up?
My co-owner of Marination, Kamal, she's great. She loves the end product. She loves to see the actual viz and the data and so forth.
Yep.
However, to build it, she would never have been the person to build that chart. So historically, I've always built an Excel spreadsheet or a chart and then shown her the result, and then we discussed it. But now she has the power to actually build it herself if I get her the data, and she appreciates that. It's definitely something, because it doesn't take data. You don't need to be a data analyst to use Vizable. That's really what's so incredible about it. You just have to have some data.
Absolutely.
And an iPad.
Very cool. So what was the coolest thing you heard at the keynote this morning? Overall.
Oh, I don't even know where to start. But I will tell you that one of the very first features that the devs rolled out was, I'm going to get the name wrong, so apologies now.
No worries.
But it was basically he had 2 different sets of data just stacked, 5 years and then 5 years. It was from Hawaii, ironically. We're a Hawaiian Korean restaurant.
Right.
And I recently had the same thing. So one of our service providers, I was looking for data on cleaning products. And they sent us a bunch of invoices. And my business manager dutifully put it into a spreadsheet for me because I asked him to. But he put it in like this invoice, and then if you scroll to the right, that invoice, and then scroll, another one. So it's like literally stacked like that. And I'm pretty certain that Tableau Desktop could take all of those invoices and turn it into a perfect, like skinny, tall chart that they love. In the world. In one thing. So meanwhile, I did the cut and paste thing. I did the old school cut and paste thing. So seeing that feature being rolled out in the new thing, I was like, oh, that could have saved me. It was pretty hot.
So it sounds like you guys are a pretty lean company as far as IT goes. It's a little bit of everybody's time doing whatever you can.
I mean, we're a restaurant we're a food truck. We definitely don't have any dedicated IT folks. Everyone has to understand and use and find their own data.
Yeah. And
again, the fact that I can put a tool like Vizable in their hands, they all have Excel, they all know how to use it and cut and paste and get things. What we're learning as a company, I guess strategically, it's more just, we're educating ourselves about how you set up clean data.
Totally.
The value of clean data,
yep.
And what that means. And doing that data prep is a huge lesson for myself as well as my management team. But then, and Vizable in many ways is sort of the prize at the end of that data cleanup. You know, once you get that clean, it's so great to then just manipulate it any which way you want. Filtering is so great. I mean, I have probably 200 items at least on this list of inventory that we keep.
Yep.
And for me to be able to filter out everything except for how much we spend on spam or fish for fish and chips or buns, you know, it's great. It's so fast. So
that is really cool.
Yeah.
What in a big data picture?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you guys have stubbed toes and figured out a path. If you were looking to give advice to a mom and pop like coffee shop when they're getting rolling, if they're looking to expand and achieve the success that you've had and get in front of that rather than behind of it, what kind of advice would you give them just from a larger big data perspective?
Well, I think if you think you're going to want to track something ever, start tracking it. Start it now. Try to set up your sheet as early as you can and then just keep tracking it because it's so delightful to, especially as these tools like Vizable come on board, it's so delightful to realize that if you ever did have data, there are tools that are going to help you make sense of it and ask questions of it. But you have to kind of have foresight about, I think one day I might want to know how many X I sell or why, and just keeping as much detail as possible. A lot of times small businesses will aggregate stuff. It's like, well, I just want to know total sales for yesterday. You know, I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I just need to know total sales. How do we do yesterday? But at the end of the day, you really want to know, how did I do at 9 o'clock? How did I do at 10 o'clock? How did this item sell? How did this one item sell at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
And so tracking with as much detail as you can possibly stand is probably, as early as possible, is probably the advice I'd give. I would have done it myself.
Cool. And where do you guys store it? Do you guys just store on each other's servers or cloud? Or?
Oh, servers, cloud. No, probably in a hard drive that hopefully is backed up somewhere. I know.
Might want to check that out.
I know. I'm going to get a lot of emails after this, I'm sure.
Cool. And what are you looking in the conference here? What are you looking to attend any sessions or what's some exciting stuff?
I'm definitely going to look at sessions, just the ones that I can go to see the possibilities.
Okay.
It's incredibly exciting for me to see what people are doing. It's also inspiring. I mean, the work that, my background is in public education and nonprofit work, so seeing how data and these visualizations are being used to make make the world a better place, not just improve companies' bottom lines, is incredibly inspiring.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Roz, thank you so much. We've got another 4 minutes. Is there any additional information you'd like to share about Vizable or how you've worked the product, what you enjoy about the product or any of that stuff?
Well, I really love how fast it is.
Okay.
It really does bring the stuff in. You don't sit there and wait for things to spin and process and churn. And it's really intuitive about how you, I mean, it's just good looking. You know, sometimes you look at apps and they're a little clunky. They do the right things, but they don't look very good. So that's always good. Yeah. So if you're sitting down with someone and you want to get them excited about something, it's really helpful to have it look good to get them excited.
Do you guys sometimes bring it out in the meetings and start
that's
pulling
where it is,
things around? Wow.
Especially because right now, I'm probably the only person who might have time to actually even create or get the data in. So now I can just go to my GM and say, look, let's look at this, filter out all the other locations. I can narrow his focus. So sometimes you'll sit down at a meeting, as I'm sure we all have, the agenda is this long, you want to filter them down to one thing. And as an owner, I want to be able to say, this is why I want you to go find out more about something. And to be able to pinpoint a data point, zoom in, filter out everything that's sort of the extra noise, and just say, look at these 2 lines, or look at this one histogram, or look at this up and down. It definitely speeds up, gets you to the meaningful part of the conversation, not scrolling through a table and saying, okay, let me find out where that said.
Right, making database decisions. And what were some of the other, I don't know, some of this I'm sure is proprietary, but in those meetings where you're passing the device around and you're scrolling things around, what were some of the big, oh my gosh, we may not have caught this, or helped you save 30 minutes in the meeting, or whatever?
Well, again, with multiple locations, it is interesting to see that they both order from the same vendor, but there are times when they don't pay the same price.
Really?
For the same product.
I got you, vendor.
Yeah, and it's not the fault necessarily. Part of it is just that it reminded me that when one location buys a lot of something, when the price is low, their average is going to get messed up.
Sure.
And it's a good checkpoint. Again, it's a lot of just using data, using Vizable, and then finding something that's a different, an anomaly really quickly, and then having a conversation. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely, Roz. Thank you so much for taking time. I know that you're super busy. We'll let you get back.